Alexander Chen adjusted his collar as he walked through the pristine corridors of Station Omega-7, humanity's newest diplomatic outpost on the edge of Galactic Council space. The sterile white walls gleamed under artificial lighting, a stark contrast to the vibrant alien architecture he'd grown accustomed to during his 3 years as a cultural liaison. Today marked the anniversary of humanity's admission to the Galactic Council, a milestone that should have filled him with pride. Instead, Alexander felt the weight of countless stares from alien dignitaries who still viewed his species with barely concealed disdain. Humans were the newcomers, the primitives who had somehow stumbled into faster-than-light travel mere decades ago, while other civilizations had mastered it for millennia. The Grand Hall buzzed with activity, as representatives from dozens of species mingled beneath towering holographic displays, showcasing their respective worlds. Alexander recognized the crystalline Zephyrians, their bodies refracting light in mesmerizing patterns, and the gaseous ethereals floating in their containment suits. Near the center of the room, a group of Valdorians, tall, imposing beings with metallic skin, dominated the conversation with their deep, resonant voices. "Alexander!" A familiar voice cut through the ambient noise. Dr. Sarah Martinez, the station's xenobiologist, approached with her characteristic warm smile. "How are you handling the festivities?" "About as well as expected," Alexander replied, forcing a grin. "Still getting those looks that suggest I should be grateful they even let us in the room." Sarah's expression softened. "Give it time. They'll come around." Before Alexander could respond, a commotion erupted near the main entrance. The crowd parted as a small figure burst through, moving with desperate urgency. It was a young Zephyrian female, her crystalline form flickering between colors that Alexander recognized as distress signals. Behind her, 3 imposing Valdorian enforcers pushed through the crowd, their metallic faces set in grim determination. The girl, she couldn't have been more than the equivalent of a human teenager, stumbled and nearly fell. Her panicked gaze swept the room until it landed on Alexander. Without hesitation, she ran directly toward him and ducked behind his larger frame, her small hands gripping his jacket. "Please," she whispered in accented standard, her voice barely audible. "Don't let them take me." Alexander felt every eye in the room turn toward him. The Valdorian enforcers approached, their leader stepping forward with authority that made the air itself seem to thicken. "Human!" The lead enforcer's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Step aside. The female is wanted for crimes against the state." "What crimes?" Alexander asked, instinctively shifting to better shield the trembling girl behind him. The Valdorian's metallic features showed no emotion. "That is not your concern. You are harboring a fugitive." Alexander glanced around the room, noting how other species watched with detached interest, as if this were merely entertainment. No one moved to help. No one except Dr. Martinez, who stepped closer to Alexander's side. "I'd like to hear what she has to say," Alexander said firmly. The girl's grip on his jacket tightened. "My name is Nora," she whispered. I tried to help them. The prisoners. They were going to execute children who stole food because they were starving." Alexander's jaw clenched. He'd heard rumors about Valdorian justice, harsh, unforgiving, with no consideration for circumstances or age. But helping prisoners escape was certainly a serious crime by their standards. "She is a traitor and terrorist," the lead enforcer declared. "Surrender her now or face the consequences of interfering with Galactic Council law enforcement." The room fell silent. Alexander could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. This was exactly the kind of situation humanity's diplomatic corps had trained him to avoid. International incidents that could damage their fragile position in galactic society. But as Nora's frightened breathing echoed behind him, Alexander thought of his own younger sister back on Earth, and the values that had driven humanity to reach for the stars in the first place. "No," he said simply. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The Valdorian enforcer's eyes flashed with dangerous light. "You dare defy council authority?" "I dare to ask questions," Alexander replied, his voice growing stronger. "If helping starving children makes someone a terrorist in your society, then maybe your society needs to examine its conscience." Dr. Martinez stepped forward. "As a council member species, we have the right to request a formal hearing for any individual seeking sanctuary in human custody." The lead enforcer snarled. "You think your primitive species can challenge thousands of years of Valdorian law?" Alexander felt something shift inside him. Not anger, but a deep, quiet strength that seemed to flow from generations of humans who had stood up to tyrants throughout history. "Maybe that's exactly what we're here for," he said. "Maybe that's why the universe put us here. Among all of you who've forgotten what it means to choose compassion over convenience." Nora peeked out from behind him, her crystalline form now shimmering with what Alexander had learned was cautious hope. Around the room, other species began to murmur among themselves. A few, the gentle Aquarians, the wise Sylvanites, nodded in apparent approval. The Valdorian enforcer's hand moved toward his weapon, but the station's security systems immediately activated, bathing him in warning lights. "This isn't over, human," the enforcer growled. "Your species will learn its place." As the Valdorians retreated, Alexander felt Nora's trembling gradually subside. She stepped out from behind him, her form now radiating grateful blues and golds. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "No one has ever... Why did you help me?" Alexander looked down at her young face, seeing in her the same spark of hope and defiance that had driven humanity to the stars. "Because," he said softly, "that's what humans do. We help." In that moment, as whispers of approval began to spread through the gathered aliens, Alexander realized that humanity's true contribution to the galaxy wasn't their technology or their diplomatic skills. It was their unwillingness to accept that suffering was inevitable, their stubborn insistence that every life had value. And perhaps, just perhaps, that was exactly what the galaxy needed.